I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet. And here is a good reminder. On Monday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, we will be going live on Rumble. I'm very excited about that. And I got to be honest with you guys, one of the biggest reasons I'm excited about it is one of my loves of my life has always been talk radio. And I feel like in the age of podcasts, people really lose that. So when you do it on Rumble, people could connect with you. And I don't think oftentimes hosts read the comments section, but I think it's something special. I've always found something special about talk radio go on.
Yeah, I mean, look, talk radio is something we grew up with. There was FM, there was AM. FM was where you wanted to listen to your music. I had my boombox turned to FM so I could hit the record button if my song came on. AM was all about talk, and anyone who listens to this show, no, you can't get us to shut up. But talk radio was probably in all three of our lives. Of course, I also grew up on movies about talk radio, like the movie Talk Radio, which Judah and I have talked about a bunch of times. That definitely helped shape the way I speak into a microphone. So, yeah, I agree with you. Something romantic about the whole thing.
And, man, I want to ask you a question before we get into the show. Well, I think this does have a lot to do with the times. Don't you find it bizarre? One of the things I loved about talk radio is that you could call up the host. You were, in a sense, part of the show. And you could say, hey, don't talk down to me or whatever it is. You could argue with the host. And I think there's like this weird thing in the podosphere, influencer sphere, where people just post messages but never respond to the people that are replying. And I'm like, you love these people so much, but they won't even respond to a kind comment of yours. Don't you find that a bit odd?
Yeah, look, a couple of things. One is I was not a talk radio guy. I was more FM. I thought the only reason that people called into talk radio was to scream Howard Stern, Baba Booey, or something like that, which was a thing for a while.
No, it was listen, you had sports
Wasn't that a
talk, you
prank?
had news
A
talk.
prank? Yeah. The non-responding, if you read all the comments, if you are a talk show type guy, like, we all are, and people comment on the official, talk show, or in our case, the Daily Cheat Sheet, Instagram or X or Truth or whatever
Or
it
my
is.
own platform.
Yeah, then it does make sense to respond, and we do. So we try to. We're trying to engage. I know a lot of people that are out there, they just think it's beneath them and they just don't do it.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to, Golan. I think people really believe it's beneath them. And one of my favorite things for the most part is 3 a.m. is when I notice I get the anti-Israel crowd coming in at 3 a.m. But for the most part, I mean, not for the most part, I thoroughly enjoy it because I also feel like I learn from people. And that's it. So we're excited about doing that on 1:30 on Monday. So come join us. We will be rumbling live. And Golan, I keep on forgetting to ask you this question, but does Barry Manilow know you raided his wardrobe?
Barry Manilow put up quite a fight, but I'll tell you, for an old guy, that guy can hang on to a coat. But as Will Smith so famously said, take my wife's name. No, that's not it. I make this look good.
And I want to ask you quickly, and I asked you this before the show. When I hear the term Groyper, I think of somebody that would not be allowed within 100 yards of a school. Like who the hell? Well, I don't even know what it means, and who would choose that as the name? I mean, what a weird, bizarre name.
Well, we're talking about Fuentes and his crew. They call themselves Groypers. At first, I thought it was Groupers, like the fish, but apparently not.
I thought it was Groupon, like we were going to get a discount of some kind.
A Groyper?
Why use a German accent when you said it?
I don't know. I think someone once said grouper to me, and they had that accent, and I can't say grouper without it. Grouper. Anyway, it's weird. His whole thing is weird. And the narrative out there, why so many people are turning to Nick Fuentes is because they're unhappy with, the established elite, the people currently out there. There's no other options. I don't buy into that. I don't know what it is. I can't, and I'm not going to say that I don't agree with that. There are no other options. So you got to go with a neo-Nazi. That seems like a cop out.
Is that really the excuse people are using?
Yeah, they keep on saying that,
I couldn't find my keys, so I thought Heil Hitler. Like, what?
He's the only one talking truth to power. He's the only one. He's taking over Turning Point. No, he's running a band of lunatics that are Nazi sympathizers, self-described neo-Nazis. And, what's really interesting is that he uses the N-word all the time. He demeans people. He said, I think the first thing that ever got him in trouble was he said that anyone who, sleeps with a black person, it's like having sex with a dog, like an animal. And yet there are black people that follow him. Kanye West hangs, not that he's the poster child for normal, but
Well, that's the
that guy
point.
showed up with him. It's
That's
just
really the
weird.
point.
It's a weird confluence we have today where blacks are, there's not all, but there's a good large group of online black people that are pro neo-Nazis. How do those two things come together? They all hate Jews or Israel. I have no idea. It's a weird.
But I wanted to save the commentary for a little later. I was just curious. I didn't want to forget to ask that. But go on. He brings up
I
a
can
really...
actually answer the question.
Yeah, please.
I can answer the question because it's something that I happen to. Well, there is a meme coin called Pepe, and a friend of mine invested in it, and I was like, "Why is it called Pepe?" And he showed me the photo of what, it's one of these like Bitcoin offshoots.
I thought that was QAnon.
No. This is something else. This is cryptocurrency we're talking about. And so, well, hang on. You're talking about Pepe, right? So Pepe the frog. Okay, so Pepe the frog is the symbol for that. And I was like, that's an interesting thing. That's the coin you're buying. He's like, yeah, it's really rising in America right now. I'm like, yeah, no doubt. And then so I looked it up, and what I found out before I had heard the term used by Fuentes or about Fuentes, when I looked up Pepe the Frog to see what its origins were to tell my friend about it, I found out that one of the variations of Pepe the Frog is Groyper, is this other meme frog character. Groyper, which is basically the same kind of character, but sitting and like thinking. It's like a thinker thing. And so it literally is just an online, like someone who's way too online, using a meme frog logo as the name for his movement.
Well,
And
somebody might want to tell them.
This also makes sense, by the way, why most of the people following him are under 30, because none of their brains are fully formed yet.
Somebody might want to inform them they sound like sexual predators. Okay.
Well, I would guess that most of them are sexual predators. So
allegedly.
So in short, it just means
no,
someone who's...
I'm saying they probably are. Not allegedly. No, Groyper is literally the name of that frog. It's just a loud internet nationalism meme frog culture thing that Fuentes adopted to name his group.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we thank you very much for the explanation, Golan. That's why you are the professor. You could be, man, the problem is, remember Cheers? Cliff Clavin, right? Golan could be.
I'm sorry. I'm closer to Frasier, but go ahead.
Golan could be Cliff Claving us, and he could just be telling us the most wild things that aren't true, but because we respect him so much, like
I do this to my wife all the time. She asks me, "What is this?" And then I give her a very long, detailed series, and then she's like, "Whoa, really?" And I go, "No, I just totally made that up." And every time she's like totally in.
Okay, so let's move on though. There's a senior citizen who sit in New York City, who saved himself by a would-be mugger. He's now heading to prison. It's a Queens senior citizen who shot dead a man who tried to rob him will spend 4 years in prison after admitting to toting an unlicensed weapon as his lawyer ripped the city's draconian gun laws. His name is Charles Foner. I don't know why he pled guilty to 1 count of criminal weapons possession Thursday in a deal to end his case more than 2 years after he fatally shot Cody Gonzalez. This is like a weird thing. Why would he have a lawyer that would tell him to do that? And then I would say immediately to Trump, commute this sentence, pardon this person, celebrate this person. This person's a hero for taking down a mugger.
I don't think Trump can. It's not a federal case. It's a state case, so the governor can. There's a lot of gun crimes, possession in New York, so possession of a firearm by criminals, and they get slapped on the wrist and let out the next day. And here's an old man who had a pistol with him for protection, and eventually someone tried to mug him and he killed the guy, and he's going to go to jail. That's basically New York in a nutshell these days. It's it's sad and it's telling. Yeah, the reason that he pled guilty was because they threw a ton of charges at him. It wasn't one. They threw a whole bunch of weapons charges. Loaded weapon, illegal weapon, revolver weapon, you name it. Any way they could slice that thing, they did it with him. They went to his house. They found a couple of other unlicensed handguns. So now it's multiple charges. And they gave him this. I think the guy's like 74 years old.
No, he's 67 years old. And it would have been, if all of the charges that they piled up together had all gone forward, it would have been 25 years in prison. He pled out with a guarantee of 4 years max.
4 years max. He's going to wind up doing 2. Unless
it's still 2 years too long.
For sure.
100%.
I mean, considering that every single day in New York, there's hundreds of people that get out that have used a weapon in a crime, and they just get let right out onto the street. I saw a story this morning. There's an old man in Queens subway station. He had his face slashed open by a guy, a repeat
Quite a
offender
few
who was
people did,
arrested. This guy was like 65 times, let out.
Yeah.
He looks deranged. He's crazy. That was this guy's problem. The old man should have showed up to court looking like a lunatic, and they would have let him right out. The fact that he looked like an upstanding citizen,
Well,
he's going to jail.
Well, because he was an upstanding citizen. Well, and this guy was a doorman. That's what his profession was. I mean, this is just absolute insanity. We know Hochul's not going to step in, but this is like one of those times. You're putting a 67-year-old dude that defended his life. He was defending his life from a mugger. I can't even believe we're actually having this conversation. I was watching an old.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just watching an old Columbo episode. It was one of those where the guy had a gun in his house, and he's like, Columbo's like, he's like, what? Do you have an issue? You're gonna arrest me for having the gun? And Columbo's like, if I had to arrest everybody with an illegal gun in Los Angeles, the jails would be prisons would be flooded or whatever. I mean, listen, go on. He had an illegal weapon. What's going on?
Well, look, the amazing thing about this is the DA was very clear. We're not going to charge him for killing the mugger. We're not going to charge him for self-defense. What it was. They said this was self-defense. We have no problem with the fact that he defended himself. So they made that clear and still tried to throw 25 years in prison at him for having the illegal firearm on him. They said they said in so many words that if he had suddenly defended himself using his fists, or like he'd grabbed the pencil and stabbed the guy in the neck 50 times, or if he picked up some heavy object and beat his head in, he wouldn't have been charged because it was just self-defense and he was just using a random object that was lying around. Only thing that they are coming after him for is the illegal firearm and the unregistered guns that he had in his house. And New York treats that particular crime more harshly than almost anywhere else in the country. And the fact that they're not taking into consideration that A, he took someone off the street, B, if he hadn't had that gun, could have gone very badly for him and probably other people this guy would have come after. None of that's being taken into consideration. So it really feels like the height of hypocrisy.
Well said, both of you. Man, I want to get to this because this is something we talk about a lot with prosecutions. So in a landmark case, 5 members of a North Texas Antifa cell have become the first defendants in America to be convicted on terrorism charges, pleading guilty to providing material support to terrorists after a violent July 4th ambush on ICE Prairie Land Detention Facility in Alvarado, Texas. So there we have it, the first, and hopefully we see this go through a pipeline of people getting arrested and convicted.
It's funny because just a couple of years ago, what's that short, fat Democrat senator who waddles?
You always do this. Who's that short, fat? Are you referring to Jerry Nadler?
That's him.
Chester Cobblepot, the Penguin?
He's a House member.
Okay, House member, Jerry Nadler.
Yeah,
I mean, literally, he looks like the Penguin, little demented fatso. Anyway, someone asked him about Antifa during, what was it, like the BLM riots and everything. And he goes, it doesn't exist. What are you talking about? You're making it up. Well, now it does exist. It's a terrorist organization. They need to go as aggressively, if not more aggressively, after these guys as they did the January 6th guys. So great start.
No, way more. Here they had
more.
An AR-15 style rifle. They had gunfire, fireworks they were using as weapons. They
no. I know. I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying, as far as prosecution goes, go after these guys with that type of zeal, the way the Democrats went after J6. So they went after the unarmed. Some of them were rioters, some of them were peaceful protesters, and some of them were just tourists that went into the Capitol that day. Some of them were welcomed in, ushered in, or whatever. They arrested all of them, locked them all up, gave them a lot of time. So Pam Bondi, get your act together and get these guys. Get them, go out en masse. It's not hard to find them. In New York City just the other day at that synagogue, 2 days ago, they were all out there, all the pro-Hamas, Antifa rioters attacking a synagogue, a place of worship, for no reason. Nothing.
We didn't get into that, by the way. We just so the audience understands, there are designated areas where protesters are allowed to stand. They are fenced off. It's very specific. They separate the two sides, and the cops are there to make sure that everyone goes to their corners. And
you have to get a permit.
And you have to have a permit. And there's all sorts of. It's all very regulated. All the pro-West, pro-morality side was staying behind their barricades. All the pro-terror, pro-rape side just walked right up to the door of the synagogue and were standing right there, harassing people as they were coming in, as they were going out. really causing trouble. And the cops were alerted on a video, and they were like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. So, yeah, that's what that's about. So that's the danger that we were talking about, where Mamdani later said, like, oh, I didn't like some of the phrases that they used. And it's too bad Jews use synagogues for illegal anti-international law stuff. So, yeah, that's what that's about, just because we brought it up yesterday, but we didn't get into the details of it.
Yep. Thank you for that. It's
Yeah,
important.
very
It's important
great,
to point it out.
greatly appreciated. Just one of these weird stories that I saw that I find remarkable, because it's usually the other way around, especially heading into the midterms. There's a narrative being shaped that Republicans are losing. I don't know if that's true or not. I tend to not trust polls, but I would go by money, man. And Democrats are broke. The DNC is minus $15 million, and the Republicans are flush for the first time, I think, ever, with $86 million on hand. I don't think I've ever heard a Republican say we're flush with cash prior to the election. So that, in a sense, that really means that the emails that go out for fundraising and all that stuff, Republicans or MAGA are giving money. The DNC, listen, the issue with leftists is many of them, these Groyper, whoever you want to call them, that broke in their parents' basement. So you're not getting money from that. And I would imagine old school Democrats are frightened of what's become of their party. They're getting these emails, man, going, donate today. And they see like a picture of Mamdani and they're like, maybe not.
Well, what we've seen over the past election cycle was that the Democrats, through Act Blue, use straw man campaigns. That expose guy who exposes all the lunacy and the elected people, and he gets them on video saying those things. What's his name?
James O'Keefe.
There you
James
go.
O'Keefe, right.
James O'Keefe exposed. I'm having a senior moment where
What's the guy? He's tall, he's lanky, big fat guy.
Man, you had 3 senior moments this morning. I guess got to tell the story.
I've been up since 5 a.m. We
got to say this is really funny.
Yeah.
Mendes suggesting stories for the show.
My friend.
Mendes was suggesting stories for the show this morning, and I gotta say it was really funny. You sent 3 stories, and I'm like, I think we discussed that yesterday. And then he sends another one. I'm like, I think we discussed that yesterday.
You did. So I knew that we touched on some of them, but I didn't think we got deep enough. But
in your defense, you also had a jackhammer in the back.
I did. We were doing a lot of construction. And
anyways, go on. Sorry.
5 a.m. in the gym. By this time, this is like midnight for me.
Go on, James O'Keefe.
James O'Keefe exposed Act Blue was using real people in the U.S. making donations on their behalf to the Democratic Party. And what he did, he took the donors and went to the house and said, "Hi, sir, did you make this $150 donation?" The guy goes, "No, I never did that." And he did it again and again and again, proving that Act Blue just used real people's names and socials or whatever to funnel money into the campaigns. Where's that money coming from? Dark places. So, we're saying that they're broke right now, but they are the party funded by the billionaires. It's funny. Trump and the Republicans are the party that's funded by small money donations. You're not getting these giant billionaires writing checks. A few, but they're few and far between. But on the Democrat side, you have, the tons of them, the Reid Hoffmans of the world that just pump cash in. They could easily write a check for $100 million.
Just so people understand what he's referring to, you're referring to these people create super PACs. So yes, so Elon Musk did create a super PAC, but Elon Musk is, as you said, he's few and far between. There are many more Reid Hoffmans,
Mark Cubans, Katzenberg, and
just so I want people to understand. Because it gets confusing because there's campaign finance laws where like a max you could donate to one candidate could be $5,000 or $2,500. You're referring to essentially you're referring to exactly what a super PAC is. So just want to clarify.
Yeah. So although they're broke right now, one of those guys could write a check for $100 million tomorrow, and then they're back in business.
Right, and that's exactly right. They just took out this, what was it, a $15 million loan?
Yeah.
And the
you need to cover a lot of Harris's stuff too.
A lot of what?
I think some of it was to cover Harris's.
It was 100%. They even indicated that it was because of the losses that they had as a result of Harris's failed campaign. But Mendes is right. These things shift very quickly. If you think about people, especially today with the internet and social media and everything, people who have viral moments, those viral moments can suddenly pour, 6, 7, 8 figures into the DNC overnight. And so right now, the DNC is currently, yes, in a weaker position than the RNC. RNC has about 80 to 90 million, I think, in reserves, and by a meaningful margin, which technically means that the RNC is in a stronger position right now. But we know winning doesn't mean this. It means winning elections, and everything could shift tomorrow. So let's remain guarded. Let's remain vigilant
No, no,
as we go forward with it.
I'm just saying you do have to use certain things in life as a litmus test, and you're both right. You could get massive infusions of money, but as we've learned from Trump, you don't need money to win elections. You need some money to win elections, obviously. But when you look at when you compare, if you take all the candidates from 2016 till Trump won this year and compare it to how much the Trump campaign spent, I would imagine the numbers like it's got to be 30 to 1 with the amount he spent compared to the amount think about it. Jeb Bush dropped out after spending what, like $85 million at
Well,
least at
think
that
about
point.
this. Right now, they
I
are
could be
now
wrong with that
15
number
million
offline.
in the hole with a loan. I'm talking about the DNC. And in 2021, they were crowing about their $75 million surplus. So that's a very short amount of time to lose basically $100 million.
I love that you just said crowing. That's good.
Thank you.
There you are. And let's move on, though, a little bit to so obviously we all woke up to see this. I don't know what to call it between Russia and the Ukraine, and Trump warning Zelensky that he has a week to accept this. I don't know what to call it. And I think we have to be fair brokers and fair people and say, man, this does not. Zelensky cannot accept this type of deal. He simply cannot accept this type of deal where he's got to give up 85% of what the Donbass region. I mean, it's literally Russia he gets nothing in return. There's zero he's getting in return.
There is zero that he's getting in return. The only thing that he gets, and I'm sorry for laughing because it's so.
I know it's wild. It's wild when you read this.
It is wild. You know what I'm waiting for is for men to be like, what's the guy? He's kind of medium height, used to be a comedian, now he runs a country.
Used to be a comedian.
Right, Zelensky.
He was a
He wears funny outfits.
cross-dressing comedian who, Anyway, it's funny because the only thing Zelensky will get and the Ukrainians will get is a promise that their people will stop getting killed in the war, and some sort of toothless guarantee, a security guarantee from America. And Trump has basically had enough with this. It sounds like Witkoff and Vladimir something or other sat in a room, had some vodka, and hammered out a deal that is a wish list for everything Putin wants, and they forgot to invite the Ukrainians in, so nothing the Ukrainians want. They're going to have to give up the area. So we talked about this previously on the show. There's a fortress that the Ukrainians spent, I don't know, the last 150 years building. The Russians can't get through it. And the Russians are saying, you have to give that up to us in this peace proposal. Now, what are Ukraine's options? If Trump is sick and tired of funding this thing, as most Americans are, and he goes, look, if you don't accept, we're going to stop giving you funding. We're going to stop giving you this stuff. The Ukrainians could say, you know what, we don't accept, and we will walk away from the Americans and we'll turn to the Europeans. And if the Europeans want to fund this thing and continue this war, let them do it. I'm okay with that. There's nothing to stop them, prevent them from doing this. This, after all, is on European territory. This is an ocean away from us, and we've spent billions of dollars on it. Trump did get the Europeans to start ponying up the money for it. But at this point, where we're sharing tons of stuff with them, I'm not happy about the proposal that's on the table. I think it could have been done a lot better. This is clearly not in Ukraine's favor. This is almost like a laundry list of everything the Russians wanted, which seems a little crazy.
I mean, even Trump's response when he said, well, they still have 12%, and he's like, well, they'll lose that very quickly.
And that is the truth. But that is what Trump is saying is actually also a truth, is that without American assistance, Ukraine will likely lose the entirety of Ukraine to Russia. I don't think there's much that Europeans could do to really prevent that from happening. Eventually, I mean, the only thing the Europeans, they're valiantly fighting. I mean, they've proven to be braver and stronger than anyone predicted. I mean, we're talking 2 years into this war. Is it 2 years now? 3 years? Whatever. We thought it was going to last 2 weeks. We thought the Russians were going to overrun them in 2 weeks. So, without the American weaponry, I do think that eventually they will fall.
No, I don't think anybody would disagree with you on that, but go on. I don't think Zelensky, listen, I get, listen, obviously, Zelensky, there are no elections until the war is over, and people are going to say, well, he doesn't want the war to end. We've heard that in other places, which in the other place, it's absolutely ridiculous because they actually have elections there, and one had nothing to do with the other. But in this case, Zelensky, he can't look at his own people and take a deal like this. It's like, what did we fight for in the first place? We lost hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians. And how does he look at his own people? I mean, I mean, he would have to literally leave the country.
It's not just him. I mean, Ukraine would never be the same. They wouldn't be safe, as men pointed out. They'd be doing this for the weak promise, the Scout's honor of people that are not going to maintain. We already know this. It's as good as him saying, well, we're going to do a quick ceasefire. And then the minute the ceasefire kicks in, they launched 1,000 drones. Like, these people are not honest brokers. They're not going to stop just because of this deal. What they'll do is basically wait until the moment and do it again. He can't take this deal. And the deal, frankly, sorry to say, it feels like Trump is so excited and eager to make a deal that any deal will do. I have gotten something signed. I have gotten people to agree.
It's a 28-point plan, by the way. It's a 28-point plan.
I mean, it just feels, honestly, it feels like parody. The idea that he would give this plan any serious thinking means he knows Putin's not coming to the table unless Putin gets exactly what he wants, because Putin can sense that Trump is getting tired of this particular conflict. He can sense that Trump is going to shut down at some point, and then he just takes over. It's no problem. If I don't think anybody thinks that if the U.S. stopped aiding Ukraine, that Ukraine will be able to continue standing for long. And so all he has to do is wait out his attention span, wait out the fact that people are still complaining about it, wait out the fact that people don't like that he's sending foreign aid, all that stuff. And then Ukraine just doesn't exist anymore. And so this plan just feels like, I know I can't beat him, so I may as well give him what he wants. This actually makes me feel like Trump is a little weak on this issue. It does not make him look good, and Zelensky can't take this plan.
I want to get into the thought process there because I don't understand it from where Trump was from a Trumpian point of view. We talked about this at length on other episodes. But first, let's just point out some of the things. One is they would require the Ukrainian forces to be cut in half. So they want the Ukrainians to eliminate half their
It feels like parody.
Telling the country that was just attacked and they've been fighting for their lives for the last, 3 some odd years.
Cut your army in half.
Yeah. So next time we'll have a much easier time steamrolling right through you, because this time, apparently, the amount of guys you were able to hold us off. Then they were also supposed to give up long-range weaponry, which is really, that's another ridiculous one. And then they want to, recognize.
Don't forget
Crimea.
the fortresses you mentioned.
Yeah. Give up.
They would have to get rid.
A whole bunch of land that Russia has not yet conquered, and recognize Crimea as part of Russia in exchange for some sort of guarantee, which is not going to be worth the paper it's written on. So, I mean, if we look at it from Trump's point of view, and we've talked about this in the past, where he had a really good strategy. The strategy was, I'm going to be very nice to the aggressor here in an attempt to give him an off-ramp. I'm going to make it really easy for Putin to end this war. I'll be nice to him. I'll offer him trade as long as he ends the war. And then the stick is, if you don't end the war, we're going to let the Europeans buy as much weapons from us and give it to the Ukrainians, and they will hurt you. And that's the stage that we're at now, where the Russians refuse to end the war. We've just opened up, I think, TACOMs, the long-range missiles. We've just green-lighted the Ukrainians to have it, and the Europeans are buying it from us, and they're giving it to the Ukrainians. So what happened? What happened now that all of a sudden it's a good idea to give Putin everything he wants and threaten Ukraine that if you don't accept it, we're going to cut you off? Something happened, because that other strategy seemed to be a good one, and we were in middle. Like, if you're in middle of the journey, why take a left-hand turn and go off a cliff?
Okay, this is a little bit more than a left-hand turn. This is like this is like taking your car and flying it off the highway.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't ask for Zelensky's wife in this thing. You must bring Vladimir, bathe her, and bring her to Vlad.
No, the Zelensky must quit. Fine. Leave Ukraine for good. No Zelenskys could ever, like the Zelensky lineage must be erased from
Right.
Ukrainian history. And listen, go on. Listen, I don't know what went on in the backroom deals. None of us do. But this is just one of those things. And I'm not a Zelensky guy. I have had a lot of issues with the way they've spent their money. I was not very happy with the accounting on this, but at the end of the day, you could be not happy with one thing and then look at this and go, this is a joke.
But bottom line, man, the reason why this is happening is because endless wars, he thinks, and he might be right, make him look weak. He doesn't like looking weak. He is a transactional person. He's not an ideological person. And sometimes that works great. And sometimes that comes to bite him when he's like, I'm not fighting for Ukraine's sovereignty. I'm fighting for bargaining power. I have a deal on the table. The deal happens to come from the mass murderer who did the launching of the war to begin with. But okay, it's a deal. I don't believe in wars. I believe in deals. So now I will take this deal and I'll apply pressure instead of applying it over here where that guy won't budge. He's real KGB tough cookie, but this guy will budge. I'll just build leverage and apply pressure and force a negotiation, and then I'll just declare victory. Like, that is what this is about.
I would love to see
And it
Zelensky's. I
Doesn't
would love
add
to
up.
see Zelensky's face when he woke up this morning or whenever he got this, and he was reading. He was reading the list. Can you imagine, men, as you're reading it off to us? Somebody's reading it to him, or he's reading it himself, and he's like, "Is this
Let
a
me
joke?
see what we have here from President Trump. Oh,
Is,
no, this is no good.
is this a joke?" But anyway,
uh,
I'm really curious to see how the European leaders, supposed European leaders, react to this, because as I've said for a long time, I don't ever think they really cared. Some of these people are some of the most inhumane despots. So I'm curious to see how Europe reacts to this go on.
they've already started to, by the way, because part of this is that frozen line that's not legally recognized. When you say they're giving up land, well, it's like Korea 1953, right? They're not actually giving up land. The shooting stops. Nobody agrees that the land actually belongs to Russia. We say but it doesn't. Also, we're not going to agree it doesn't belong to Ukraine. So the armies kind of just stay where they are, and the de facto dividing line just kind of exists. And because on this deal, there isn't something that says Ukraine is giving the territory to Russia, as far as I understand it. And so Europe hates that. They hate that because basically it puts Russia one step closer to everywhere else, despite it being not a legal border or something that isn't recognized across the board. It doesn't matter. Russia basically, it's like the DMZ model. It's like Russia basically has the land. They're closer to every other part of Europe that they don't want them to be in. And it's a big problem. So the European leaders have already said, we don't like this deal. They haven't got into the nitty gritty of it, the details of it, but they've already made it clear that this deal stinks, and it does.
Yeah, and it does. I want to move on a little bit though, because I want to get back to a story we were talking about a few seconds ago with what Men just brought up, because this is actually a pretty wild story. Pros, how do you pronounce it? The former rapper from the Fugees, was sentenced to 14 years in prison. 14 years in prison for campaign finance. What he was doing exactly what Men did. He was funneling money from foreign governments into Obama's campaign. I mean, you're talking about a serious, serious offense. This isn't like whatever they Obama accused Dinesh D'Souza, and later he got pardoned. How do you say it? Pros or pros?
I don't know.
Either way, you get the point. 14 years in prison, man. So to your point, there you are.
All right. So first of all, you said it's the same thing I did, and I need you to say allegedly.
No. I didn't say it's the same thing you did. I said
You
it's
said
what
men.
You actually, Judah, you actually did. It was very funny.
Yeah.
You were like, it's the same thing
My bad.
Men did.
Okay. No,
Yeah, nobody knew
sorry.
about that.
Sorry, it's what
Funneled all
it's
those
what-
billions into Trump's campaign. God,
it's
now
what
he's
Men
putting it on
brought
the
up
air.
before. It's what
You
Men
say
brought up
allegedly,
before.
allegedly. Okay.
It's what Men brought up before. Just
Yes,
because
yes.
when people hear certain things, they say, "Oh, that's not true. How could that be? You're just repeating some crazy narrative that's not true."
Right.
Well, here it's exactly true. And how many
Proven.
more are like him?
So what this guy did was I think it was with Malaysia. He got something like $125 million because they wanted to influence the Obama. This is back in Obama's days. They wanted to influence or have influence within the Obama administration. He said, don't worry about it. I'll hook it up for you. Give me the money. I'll get it into his campaign. And then anything you need from him, we'll work it out. He then got a whole bunch of straw men to make those donations, which is what we were talking about earlier. Act Blue did that on a minuscule, a smaller donation size scale, but way wider. So thousands or tens of thousands of people, each giving a few $100s. Here, it was not as many, but it was many millions. Got it into Obama's campaign. That was number one. Then he got caught. And then there was, he perjured himself in his trial. He witness tampered. I mean, this guy just kept on screwing with the judge. So they threw the book at him. That's how it goes. Like, you ever see those cases where they say you need to hand over the evidence? They tell somebody, you need to give over the emails or whatever. And everybody wonders, why would you give it over? It's going to incriminate you. Because if you don't, this is the rule in the U.S. judicial system. If you screw with the judge and you screw around with it, fine or the penalty will be way worse than the penalty you would have gotten had they found the smoking gun in your email. So if you have it and you don't turn it over, you destroy it, you screw with witnesses, you witness tamper, any of those things, you're going to get hit much harder than you would have had you just been found guilty for the thing you did. And that's what this guy did. So it's a long term. I mean, 14 years. He's going to wind up doing about 9.5 years in federal prison.
That's a long time. And
I got to say, the interesting thing about this story to me, while it's interesting in and of itself because it's a celebrity that did it, it's very strange, and 14 years, such a long time, and all this stuff, it's the guy in Malaysia he was doing it with, who I happen to have had some dealings with. So there's this guy, his name is Jolo, and he is also, I don't know if you guys remember the story, it's been a little while, but there was
is
the
this
one.
the DiCaprio thing?
It is absolutely the same guy.
With the Oscars, he
So
produced
yeah,
the
it
movie.
was called the One. So let me tell everybody what it was. It was called the One Malaysia Development Board, the One MDB, and this was a big scandal. It was a massive corruption and money laundering scheme out of Malaysia. About $4.5 billion was diverted from government funds to finance all sorts of stuff, which included yachts and property and also films. This is how they financed The Wolf of Wall Street. And in order to convince Leo to be a part of it, they bought him all sorts of priceless works of art by the amazing masters, Picasso's and stuff like that, all from Malaysian money. The Department of Justice indicted this guy in 2018. They indicted him with, it was like a conspiracy to launder billions of dollars, and he was paying bribes to all sorts of government officials, fake passports, fake identities, all sorts of crazy stuff. This is just the newest chapter. I didn't think I'd see his name again. So nice to see an old friend show up in the news. What a weird world we live in.
And I guess there will not be a Fugees reunion for another 15 years. I guess Lauryn Hill will have to wait on that.
Yeah, but I believe that there was already trouble brewing within the Fugees as a result of some financial issues anyway. So this is
But
just,
didn't they also, it was what was it, them or Wu-Tang that made that one album that they only made literally one album and they sold it to,
that was Wu-Tang.
yeah, that was
That got
Wu-Tang.
sold to the farmer bro, right?
Yeah, to the guy that raised the prices on it. I sort of like that guy.
But the funny thing is, just for the fun of it, since it came up, this same guy who was just sentenced to 14 years in prison is the one who sued Lauryn Hill for fraud and breach of contract and all this other stuff. Like this guy might be shady. I'm just saying. Hey, it's just a hunch.
And not Slim Shady. This is my rap knowledge, by the way.
Wow.
This is
well done. Very hip. Hello, fellow kids. All right, go ahead.
Well, listen, it's funny. Yeah. Anyway, I want to move on though, because it's the last thing I really want to discuss today, which I think is, you guys didn't hear it or see it, but I heard the press conference between Mamdani and Trump, and it was you could just call it deflection. You could just, like everything was deflection. There was one point where somebody said to Trump, go on, do you mind that he called you a fascist? Then they asked Mamdani or whatever, and Trump's like, it's okay, you could say you called me a fascist. And then Trump's like, he called you a despot, and Trump's like, I've been called worse. And you could see, the feel of the meeting and the takeaway. First of all, it hurts Mamdani. It hurts Mamdani more than anything because he's the one standing next to President Trump sitting. And it was sort of like a mob boss type experience because what Trump was saying then was, the city's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. And we're going to work together. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And he's going to be one of the greatest mayors. And if he's not, well, we'll deal with that then. But he's going to do a fantastic job. All this stuff. I like how he spoke about affordability and building up stuff. It's great. And then Mamdani's like asked about the police. Are you going to keep it at 30 or are you going to get more police? He's like, we're going to keep it at exactly 35,000. It was like he wouldn't it was like watching two people on the stump speak.
You know, I heard someone say it and I don't know who it was, but they said Trump's MO is his first move is he gives you the biggest bear hug. Lots of praise, biggest bear hug, and gets you, you know, all buttered up and nice and comfortable. And then he'll hit you with the reality stuff. So seems classic Trump here. Mamdani, the guy who's been calling him a fascist and a pig and everything else, and you know, saying that he's going to insulate New York from Trump and all the nonsense that he's been saying on the campaign trail, all the fake promises and everything else, free buses, free healthcare, free food, free everything. Can't deliver it. Can't deliver it. Now he has to grovel, go to the White House, and Trump gives him a bear hug, which makes Trump look so much better. The Democrats must be going nuts.
Nuts. That's my
They
point.
were
They must be
expecting him to just yell insults at him and everything. And here's the guy taking the high road saying, oh, he's going to be a fine mayor. He's going to, you know, New York is going to be great. I would move back to New York under this guy. Just
So
buttering him up.
So somebody asked the genocide question go on to him, and he's like, no, I didn't say Trump was committing genocide. I said Israel was committing genocide. But they're like, and it was very interesting. But the men's point is 100% right. He gave him the bear hug, and he's like, look, take this picture back to your constituents. You were in the same room as this fascist. Don't forget that, little boy. And one of the reporters asked him about the bus, like, why didn't you take the bus here, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, and he couldn't answer. And Trump's like, listen, the plane's quicker. I'll answer for him. It takes 30 minutes to get here by plane. You know, it was. Listen, if you didn't hate him and weren't so scared of his anti-Semitic and that type of thing,
Yeah.
but it wasn't-
Anti-American. The guy is just.
But again, it's very scary, and he's a very scary figure to go along. And what you do with very scary figures like Kim Jong-un is you call them Little Rocket Man. What you do with a Mamdani is you have him in your office and you treat him like he's a pet on your lap. Okay,
Yeah, and
that's how
but by the way, even Little Rocket Man, he started off first by saying, hey, we had a great conversation, great guy, I think we're going to get along. It's so stupid to me. And I see this all the time. And by the way, we're going to see it again now with this Mamdani thing when people criticize Trump for complimenting bad actors. That people hear Trump say something nice, something flattering about some villain like Mamdani, by the way, or Kim Jong-un or any of these other people. Oh my God, he's praising a dictator. He's cozying up to the enemy. I knew it. He's a cat's paw. He said Mamdani has potential. What a corrupt blah, 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 blah. And it's like, just take a chill pill, Professor Political Science. Trump's not giving anyone a hug. He's baiting them. This is his whole MO. It's like number one playbook rule of Mr. Half Comedian, Half Mafia is he flatters his opponent long enough to expose them themselves. And then once they expose themselves, he crushes them. It's like he uses compliments the way other people use rope. You know that thing where they say you give them enough rope to hang themselves with? That's what he does. And that way he goes, hey, that way later, if I need to deal with you, hey, I came to you with my hand out. And it's very Godfathery. It's really, you know, he called Kim Jong-un a smart guy. He said, I respect Xi, you know, all that stuff. And he did the same thing here with Mamdani. So you could see the playbook in action, and it has been working. And I did not have a problem with the way this went down.
And you're going to see the New York Post, and this is what I always say to people. You know, with the New York Post is going after him, but this is the same New York Post. You'll always, you know, everything is obviously it's owned by News Corp, which is Rupert Murdoch. So there's always nasty stories in the Wall Street Journal about Trump. They switch off. They take turns once a week who goes after Trump. Today it's the New York Post. They did it with the Russia thing, which I don't necessarily disagree with them on. Now they're saying, you know, what we expected is a slugfest. What did they think was going to happen? Mamdani was going to be in the Oval Office and Trump was just going to BIT him? No, I mean, you knew this was going to happen. This is what
the
he does
media
with people.
Constantly want Trump to fight before negotiating because they don't understand power or they pretend not to. It's one of the two. Every time Trump does this, the press throws a tantrum. He's normalizing, he's elevating, no, you effing morons. He's setting up leverage, right? You don't walk in swinging blindly into a fight. You walk in, shaking hands, making the other guy feel comfortable, and then he doesn't see the uppercut coming. I mean, it's so clear, and it all like anyone read Sun Tzu? The hell are you guys talking about? You thought he was going to
But no,
go in
no. I'll
yelling
be
at
honest with you. Most people have not read The Art of War,
I mean, it's
and
ridiculous that they
yeah,
haven't, by the way.
I'm just which I think should be one of the books that. Well, listen, if kids actually read and were forced to read in school. So go on. During the press conference, Trump was also asked about the Coast Guard yesterday,
Right.
changing the symbolism of what a swastika means. And he had no idea, zero idea of what the Coast Guard was doing. He got into the beautiful ships the Coast Guard just had, but he had zero idea of what they were talking about. And I believe him
Yeah.
100%. We live in I don't know who thought about this.
I'll tell you why I believe him. I believe him because I think he's not the only one that didn't know. There was a tweet, I believe, from the Department of Homeland Security. I might have the department wrong, but it was tweet quoting them talking about this story and saying, y'all are just making stuff up now. That came from inside the halls of government. I think someone made some bureaucratic decision and then was like, what? Why would anyone do that? Is what every rational person in the White House said. And then they were like, never mind, we're just going to take it back. This is so just so our listeners know what we're talking about, the U.S. Coast Guard apparently announced that swastikas and nooses, which had been classified as hateful, were now going to be reclassified as potentially divisive. The swastika potentially, I mean, this is clearly someone pushed the wrong button when they were trying to order a soda or something. And so, yeah, obviously this doesn't make any sense. Obviously, even as symbols, these are not neutral icons. These are not potentially divisive. These are purely hateful, racist, anti-Semitic symbols. And I'm glad they walked it back at the very least and quickly. But God, how many times have we mentioned on the show that they need to fix their messaging, and instead they do stuff like this? This is the opposite of doing better on messaging, guys. Please stop dropping the ball. No unforced errors, no own goals from here forward.
Especially when it could hurt the president, and that's the point. It's like
Exactly.
you got to protect the quarterback. Whoever did this is more than a mistake. They should absolutely be fired. I know this administration and JD Vance has this no firing policy with racism and certain other things that are despicable things, but whoever did this makes everybody look bad. The
The
fact
no
that you
firing
have to,
thing was that, no, JD, God, not JD. That was Biden's policy. Okay. You sound like Matt Walsh with no enemies on the right. You don't have to have some blanket thing. Someone screws up badly like this, you're allowed to fire them. Enough with that kind of silly logic.
yeah, and I would say this as a Jew, as not a Jew, because the noose thing, I could understand if a black person has a visceral reaction to seeing a noose. I could understand that. I'm not black, but I could understand that. Like I said to you before, I could understand if blacks were scared to get the vaxes. I remember when they said with the vaccines, black people come and get it first, like the second round. And I was like, that may not be the best thing to say to black people after after Tuskegee. So I could understand people and it doesn't mean we're being politically correct or politically incorrect. We're just being normal. And
I'll just put it out there for our listeners to know that according to an article that was in the New York Post, the Coast Guard said, hey, we never intended to do this. It's categorically false. And then the next day, they issued a statement saying, we're putting them back on the list. So again, messaging, guys, do better.
So all the people at the Coast Guard, swastikas down, memos out. If you'll grant me 2 minutes, I just want to get back into quickly a conversation we were discussing yesterday, which was with Australia banning social media. And what I just wanted to
under a
discuss,
certain age.
and I just want to get under 16 years old. And I just want to get both of your 1 minute take, sort of like a hot take on this, because I was just thinking to myself, and go on, what because I posted something about this.
Mhm.
Everybody's biggest fear is what's next. And remember, Australia is a country that's banned guns, right? What's their Muslim population like over there, Golan?
I'm actually not sure. I don't know the
Okay,
answer.
but you look at the rest of Europe that you said is following suit with the banning of it. So they all ban guns. They're banning social media, except for people that get under 16. But if you're over 16, you could get arrested for speaking on it. I'm just saying I could see where people are a little scared to it's a very complicated thing, this subject that we discussed yesterday. I don't think we talked about all the nuance of it. That's all I
So you want us to give like a 1 minute hot take on this
yeah,
thing?
yeah. I want you to say, like, it's not just cut and dry, or maybe it is to you. Maybe it simply is cut and dry, and there could be no more fallout from this. But I don't see it like that. Europe really scares the crap out of me. It does, with their laws. I don't trust these people. And if you live there, we've had Guy, your friend, on, who spoke about how it was with COVID and all that stuff, and all the, it's extremely, Australia is not the place we want to get our moral.
Absolutely, man. Do you want to take it first?
No, jump in. I want
All
to
right,
hear
look,
your take on
I
it.
think you're right, Judah, that we have seen Australia be really authoritarian in a lot of different places, and we have seen the consequences of when a government is overly oppressive and taking things away and making decisions on our behalf. But I also think that there are certain things that governments who are not oppressive and generally don't do that just make sense for society, right? You say there's an age for drinking, there's an age for smoking, there's an age for driving, there's an age for all sorts of things. And that doesn't mean we're like, oh my God, they took away my freedom for my kid to smoke when he's 3 years old. It's like, no, there's some things that the government has set the number. Parents say, hey, privacy of your own home, stick a butt in the kid's mouth
Parents
if
just
you
don't
feel like it makes
understand.
sense. Yeah, yes, thank you, Will Smith. Another
I'm
Will
on my
Smith
rap.
reference.
I'm on my rap.
Yeah,
You
you're
are.
doing great.
Rapper Judah.
Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?
And by the way, the number is 3.2% of the population is Muslim in Australia.
Thank you very much.
3.2. See, about 850,000.
Okay, for now. But anyways, the point is that there are certain things that are for the health of society, for the health of the kids, and all of this stuff. And if you think about it this way, you can hand a weaponized dopamine slot machine to a 12-year-old with an unformed brain, and then pretend not to know why they're anxious and going crazy and depressed and self-hating and cutting themselves, ready to throw themselves off a cliff because some AI cartoon avatar said their selfie wasn't cute, and we can all pretend we didn't know what happened. But these kids are unformed in the same way that we're like advocating for, wait a minute, there should be age limits. Okay, if some of us say altogether get rid of it, but age limits to puberty blockers. When you become an adult, make your own decisions. You want to cut your arm off, do what you got to do, whatever, all of that stuff. We understand that kids can't make certain decisions because their brains are not fully formed yet. So this falls into that category. This doesn't fall into the category of they took our guns away, they took our rights away, they took our ability to choose away. It's a different thing. For me, Australia restricting social media under 16 is not just a good idea. It is a brilliant idea. I wish it was more than 16. And frankly, with everything you just said about the Australian government, and you're right, it is the first good decision that this government has made in years. They can't vote, they can't drink, they can't get a tattoo, they can't rent a car, they can't be trusted. You can't buy a freaking Peloton if you're under 16
It's like they
years
got
old.
the youth, the youth in Australia just got Zelensky. Man, they have zero seat at the table, as well as if you're under 16, you really shouldn't have a seat at the table. And this is when I love when Bill Maher talks about this, when people say, kids are so smart. And Bill Maher's like, no, they're not. Anyways, man,
No,
what's
they're
your
not.
answer on that? Because I
Their
want to move on to
prefrontal
one more
cortex literally doesn't exist. All right, go ahead.
I'm being a libertarian. I'm against bigger government. I'm against more intrusiveness by the government. But on this one, as Golan rightfully pointed out, kids can't drive. They can't get tattoos. So when you find that we have this new thing, social media, which is destroying youth, it is destroying brains, it is destroying our societies. The Chinese have TikTok. That's all about the best achieving science and math guys. Over here is how well you can twerk. So in this instance, I am absolutely for it. I think it's a good move. It's a great move.
No, listen, respect. I just wanted to get your opinions again on this. I just wanted to listen. I think some things are worth discussing a couple times, and I was a little confused myself on it, as I still am. I'm not going to say you've both sold me on this. I'm just saying I enjoy hearing both of your opinions.
I'm actually asking this question, dude, as someone who does not have children. What I just said, obviously brilliance and logic that I used, that didn't sway you? That's not something that makes you go, well, obviously, duh, because I cannot imagine a different reaction.
No. You see, here's my thing. It goes to what Men just said. Men sort of answered the fear that I have. That's my fear, is government overreach. It always has been government overreach. When you look at what they've done, I hate using guns. When you look at what they've done with anything, really, right? When you look at what they did with COVID, with censorship, When you look at everything the government touches, once you allow them into the room, they do not leave. And that is my biggest fear, and that not everybody is as rational as Golan Ramraz or Menda Dude Stern, and we're not actually talking about. See, I could live with it if you said like this to me, Golan. We're going to do this, but at the same time, we're going to have daddy and me courses, okay? We're going to have parenting courses in Australia that parents learn how to be parents. Because you know how we always talk about like they took shop out of school, right? And all these things out of the education system, and we're paying for that, men, right now, right? We're paying for the consequences of not shop, but of the advanced shop would have been learning AI, right? Learning all these things. We're paying those consequences that, so that's
Look,
my,
you're talking to a guy that thinks you should have to take a test and get a license in order to have a child. So I don't disagree with you. But when you're talking about government overreach, you are forgetting that the real overreach already happened and it had nothing to do with the government.
no, I'm not saying you swayed me one way or the other. I just sort of enjoyed the conversation. I got to be
Yeah.
honest. I just didn't,
Yeah.
I think these are more conversations that people should be having before people scream at each other one way or the other. And
I just want people who do have children.
I respect, you see, but you guys are the outliers. And I always say that is,
But this is actually, hang on. That's the point, is that if men and I are the two best parents that exist, and it's very possible that we are, that's why sometimes there needs to be someone else who can be the authoritarian in the room. Because if parents, and I've seen it, I've seen plenty of parents who just hand the device over unregulated. I was at the beach not long ago when I was in Israel, and I saw a kid sitting. His dad's in the water, everyone's in the water, and the kid is sitting hunched over, lily white, looked like a question mark because of his bad posture, staring at that phone, swear to God. And he was on Chat GPT asking questions, and I was staring like, that thing is telling him whatever the hell the algorithm feels like telling him, whatever Reddit told him yesterday. And that, okay, well, that's a school shooter. Next. Like, it was terrifying.
That's really funny. Okay, I just want to get to something Men brought up because I do not want to leave out a subject that he wanted to talk about. But the weekend's coming up, and again, 1:30 on Monday, we will be doing the show live. But Men brought up, the weekend's coming up, and we always joke that Men is the healthy family. They do all this stuff, so they will not be doom scrolling. But if you're on X-Men, one dangerous place to be, and it wasn't until last weekend that we all learned that Tucker Carlson had a brother. I mean, literally, I don't think any of us knew Tucker Carlson last week had a brother, but you wanted to talk about something, and you wanted to talk about the fact that Ambassador Huckabee invited former convicted spy Jonathan Pollard to the embassy in Jerusalem. Now, here's the thing. You're right. It's a horrific optic look for Mike Huckabee. Okay, but Mike Huckabee, not an the U.S. ambassador to Israel, but again, it's going to come down on Israel looking bad, men. So I agree with you. Whatever you want to say, I just want to say optically it was not a great look. I still love the huckster.
Yeah, optically it was a bad look. You should not be fraternizing with people that are convicted of spying against your country, regardless of how you feel about the information that he shared, regardless of how you feel about the nation that he shared it to, regardless whether you think that the U.S. should have shared that information anyway, because it was...
Regardless that you think he served 30 years too much.
He served one of the most longest sentences for someone who shared data that didn't cost any American lives. Right? These are all things that could be valid and
and also giving an ally information that we were supposed to give them and didn't.
But there's a lot of other things, and I'm tuning all of that out. And the only thing I'm looking at,
I know you are. I just wanted to make sure our audience heard it.
Yeah.
U.S. ambassador meeting.
I happen to agree with Mend on this. I really do. Mend got me to go to sway his way on this one.
Lapse in judgment by Mike Huckabee. He should not have done it. And now, of course, the Tucker Carlsons of the world are calling for his head. So it's going to be another weird one. See how this one plays out. It's more ammunition for the Tuckers to run around and scream about this Jew who spied for Israel. He was an American citizen who spied for Israel. It's just not great timing. I wish that part of the pardon or release, I don't think it was a pardon, I think he was just released. I wish that part of that would have been a stipulation that he cannot get on social media, cannot give interviews. He just needs to...
Well, he's also living in a different country and his probation was...
Where they should have done that too. They should muzzle that guy. He is not helping anybody.
Can I tell you something?
Israel.
I want to tell you something. go on. He gave the greatest advice in the beginning of the war, and had Israel listened to him, because I quoted him often at the beginning of the war, had Israel listened to him, they would have been in much better place. He called for a total media blackout once the war started. He called for the second hostages were released, for them not to be allowed to speak. There were a lot of things he was saying in the beginning of the war that would have helped greatly. And again, this guy does not serve in any form of the Israeli government.
And there's a lot of things that he's currently saying that are not helping the Israeli government.
But again, he's a citizen. And go on, you can't control what a citizen does. This was Mike Huckabee's bad. He should not have invited him to the embassy, right? I mean, listen, it's Mike Huckabee's call. He'll have to live with the consequence.
Who got pardoned out of
Just to be clear, Mend, you're talking about, and I'm asking, because you said two things and they were a little contradictory. You said it's bad timing. That's one argument. And the other argument is this guy is a traitor and shouldn't be anywhere near a government office. Those are two different arguments that actually contradict each other. Which is it? Just so I know what your argument is that you're making.
So from a U.S. citizen point of view, he betrayed the United States.
Okay, and can you just explain to me how he betrayed the United States?
He divulged secrets to a foreign country.
You mean that? Wait, so just to be
He had
clear,
privileged information working in the Navy or wherever he
Right.
worked, and he gave it to a foreign country.
and the agreements that America and Israel had with one another stated that America would give them this information, and then they didn't. So they violated the agreements, and then he handed over. Just to make sure everyone knows what actually happened. So you're saying that
Correct,
okay,
but
so
he wasn't the one
okay.
authorized to give that information,
Correct,
which
of
then
course.
makes him
Yeah,
a
yeah.
spy, and he wound up going to jail for it.
But we're not saying Men's not saying it again. I can't believe I'm defending Mend.
Why
Mend
you can't
is
defend it? Of course you can believe
because
it.
you're
I'm a
very hard to
rational
defend.
dude.
You're very hard to defend in life. Mend's point is, which is, go on. He did do something. Either way, he was working for the United States government, but the sentence did not fit the crime. Again, I just want to get back to Mend's point. He is a U.S. citizen. He has zero influence in Israel. Okay, zero.
He's
influence.
not elected a government official. He's
With-
nothing. He's just a human being that lives there. That's all he is.
That's it. And it was if this is on anybody, go on. It's on the huckster, who I love. I don't think should be fired. I love Huckabee. Love him. My dream Passover Seder is with Mike Huckabee. I've written about that. That is like my dream, is to be at a Seder with Mike Huckabee. That's how much I love the dude. And so go on. He made a mistake, but it's gonna go off the rails on high.
It's already going
So
off the rails.
so now here's where I will. I don't agree at all. I think that I get that that Pollard was politically railroaded because ultimately what happened there was wildly disproportionate, and this is information the U.S. not only should have been sharing with Israel, but actually had agreements that said they would, and they violated those agreements.
Yes.
Yeah, he was the guy that wasn't authorized to do it. No problem. He's a spy. Legally speaking, he's a spy. Morally speaking, he's not a spy as far as I'm concerned. Politically speaking, not a spy as far as I'm concerned. But legally speaking, yes, that is on the record. So I actually like the idea of saying, yeah, we screwed up here. America screwed up in how we handled this. But in terms of timing, in terms of the optics, couldn't agree more. Bad timing. This is not the time to start pulling strings that are going to make people who are anti-Israel or looking for an excuse, like the Tuckers of the world, give them ammunition to continue going after people. So from that perspective, yes, I happen to not agree on the other one, but
we didn't
that's the
disagree with
beauty
you.
of it.
We're not disagreeing with you on what you're saying. We agreed with you 100. I agree with you 100%. He should have. It was information that America should have shared, and all that stuff. At the end of the day, he broke the law. It did not fit a 30-year sentence, and as I brought up on the phone before,
It didn't fit any aspect of his sentence. What happened was he embarrassed the organizations, the agencies within the United States, and they lashed out and took it out on him. But
And a
the whole
very
thing was
unfriendly, and he did it to a very unfriendly State Department, which
correct.
was
And
James.
not only that, the information, and again, just so I'm not even saying this as a defense, I'm saying this so our listeners know that the information that America chose not to share, that they had literal agreements in place that they said they would share and chose not to, was potentially life-threatening to Israel, to its ally. The people who did that screwed up. Jonathan Pollard screwed up in that he wasn't authorized to do it, and he felt a moral obligation and he shouldn't have, and all of that. I agree. Fine. Yes, that's true. But all of this was wildly disproportionate. He was punished for politics, not for the crime itself. At this point, that's been acknowledged. So for Huckabee to say, you know what, you were a guy that was railroaded. Yep, according on paper, you were this. We all know that's not the case. And here now the optics of me bringing you here are us admitting that. I don't have a problem with that. But in terms of the world being crazy and the optics for that side of the equation, yeah, it's a problem.
Who got Pollard out of prison?
He didn't. His sentence was up.
No, I know. They let him out.
No, he served his 30-year sentence.
Well, originally he would no. Well, hang on. Originally he was given life in prison.
That's right. That's right.
Someone let him out. He got out under a president.
But yes, he got out in 2015. So that would be Obama.
Yeah. But also this was something that, you know, you're talking about U.S. officials who are publicly calling for clemency for the guy, for release for the guy. I mean, everybody knew that this was a politically motivated hack job. And, you know, at the end of the day, ultimately, and it was Netanyahu at the time, pushing for his release for decades. It was people inside the U.S. and outside the U.S. all were pushing, realizing that the thing was really ridiculous and also made America look bad. And so ultimately,
what I think is interesting, by the way, just a total side note, we're going way over, is that his handler was given a full pardon by Trump. And I just want to end with this because I was talking about the doom scrolling. What you're seeing online is something we've never witnessed before. And that's why I wanted to bring up in the beginning of the show, this thing with the Groypers. I mean, you guys sound like these people sound like a bunch of fools. Like a bunch of fools. The only thing that Nick Fuentes will be in charge of in the future is like literally like the child molesting convention. Like he'll be like the president of NAMBLA. Okay, that's what Nick Fuentes' future looks like. And anybody looking up or quoting or whatever, we're at a bad time in history. We are. You know, they used to have that joke, he has a face for radio. He doesn't have a voice for radio either. I mean, the guy is a little demented hobbit. And the people that are listening to him, whoever's being influenced by the Megyn Kellys or him or any of these people, like really do some soul searching, do some deep soul searching. And this has nothing to do with Israel. These people are leading you down a dark road. Go on. They are leading people down a dark path.
Absolutely. Look, Nick Fuentes is basically the political equivalent of Rumpelstiltskin if Rumpelstiltskin were allergic to sunlight and live streamed his tantrums. This is, I don't know any other way to put it. You're talking about literally, by the way, that's Rumpelstiltskin. You know what? I'm going to run with this because Rumpelstiltskin in the fairy tale was literally a petty, bitter little gremlin who you know, screamed about not getting his way and tried to convince everyone that he had more power than he actually had. If that is not a one-to-one, I don't know what is. And anyone following this guy as he stomps his feet and shrieks in rage as he tries to take your firstborn, you all are trolls. And I understand that troll is an internet term, but you are troll in the under the bridge version. You're all, I mean, I understand you're all 20 years old and your prefrontal cortexes are all screwed up from social media. So Australia would have saved all of us a little trouble if you'd all been there after this law passed. But you are all demented people that need to get out into the sunlight and touch some grass.
Well said. And man, as I said to you on the phone before the show, I can't say this word that I said to you, but my favorite thing, because, you know, Dave Rubin is an example of MAGA and the Republican Party opening up its tent. He's the perfect example of how we want the tent expanded. We love gay people. He's married. He's got children. Welcome to the party, pal, to quote Bruce Willis. Okay? We don't want a neo-Nazi movement in the party. Okay? So not welcome to the party, pal. But man, my favorite thing is he keeps on saying to Megyn Kelly, respectfully speaking, Megyn. And we all know what he's saying. But I love that Dave Rubin is saying, he's like saying, you dumb, you know what? And
see you next Tuesday.
So, yeah, exactly. That's exact. Thank you. And man, but it's really interesting that Dave Rubin, who is as neutral in many ways, and
Dave woke up. He was a lefty. Dave was a lefty. He woke up. Megyn Kelly is going off the rails. She, again, it's funny. There's a video.
Her and Levin. She's going after Mark Levin, right? Mark Levin. And saying there's a video of her saying that she has a secret crush on him. how he's the great one, how she always wanted to be on his show. She was scared, something like that. I don't want to misquote.
Yeah.
And now she's saying,
Now
she
she's
called.
accusing him of calling her a Nazi when what
But
he did
yeah,
was he was talking about this faction in the party that is embracing neo-Nazis. There's the lunatics that are the anti-Israels. There's the Tucker Carlsons. There's the Nick Fuenteses. There's the Kelly. He didn't even say her first name. He didn't call her a Nazi. He just said there's a lot of problems, a lot of problematic areas in these different factions, and she's one of them. And she's like, oh, look, he called me a Nazi. She's smart enough to know what she's doing.
But you know what? Can I say something? Can I add on to what you just said? You know what it's also meant is she's supposedly a strong woman. That's how she's played her whole career, as this strong woman, and now
Yeah.
she's a victim. Tucker Carlson is a victim. They're all victims, and that's what that's what they're playing right now. And I was thinking about this because you want to know. Sorry if we're going a little too long, but you want to know the etymology, really, of Tucker. This hatred, where a lot of this comes from, is this. And I understood it in the beginning because remember, one of the first people he went after was Bill Ackman. And I remember when he went after Bill Ackman after October 7th, his whole point was, well, where were you people when everybody else was getting canceled? And by you people, he meant the Jews, and I agreed with him for years. This angered me that people weren't speaking up about people being canceled. But at the same time, that did not lead me down a neo-Nazi course. That did not lead me down to hating Jews. You could look at Bill Ackman and be angered by that he didn't speak up for you for years. But Bill Ackman's a liberal lefty. He is. At the end of the day, he's a liberal lefty. Okay? He shares one thing with me, but I'm never going to say he's part of my party. He's not, He's just not. And that's really but to play the victim, come on, man.
Well, you forgot the second part of his statement. The first part was, where were you people when people were getting canceled? First part is you people, the Jews. The second part of people getting canceled is him getting canned from Fox News.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. It's just his ego is bruised, and he saw all these Jewish people not stand up for him, or whatever was in his diseased brain. And then he was open to the idea there is a moment, that thing in Marvel where they're like, this is the timeline, and then here's where the timeline deviates. There's a moment where the timeline deviates, and the timeline deviates when he goes to Russia and he goes to Qatar. We don't have to pretend otherwise. It literally is on that date. It's suddenly
I
changed.
know. And you know, it's amazing. I want you to think about this for a second. He's speaking to he's interviewing Nikki Haley's 17-year-old son that could be the spokesperson for Autism Speaks. I mean, literally, this is who all of a sudden he's raising up this kid's whatever. He's just to prove a point. He has a 17 and a half or 18 or whatever kid at the age this kid is, men going, oh, this is the future of the party. This is the, it's like, what are we doing here, man?
The future of which party? So
that's exactly right. I love the way you put that. The future of which party? I didn't mean to offend Autism Speaks.
I saw part of that interview, and it was tough. It's tough to listen to because you're hearing a kid who's influenced by the latest social media influencers out there. And I mean, you're not talking to someone who has age and wisdom. He's young. He's impressionable. He might change all his minds by tomorrow and, be on the next podcast. So it was a tough listen. I checked in for a little bit because I was just curious as to what this kid's, his motivation, his gripe. What is he talking about? Where's his coming from?
His gripe?
It's Groyper.
Yeah, his gripe.
What's your gripe? What's your gripe?
Groyper. Anyway, talking about, I know this is not part of it, but talking about podcast, I listened to a couple of minutes Sam Harris on.
I told you.
I did too, by the way.
Told you guys not.
A tough listen.
I told you guys not to listen to that. It was like I've never seen somebody. I mean, the guy. First of all, the guy was raised
derangement syndrome. He's suffering.
I love when he said, "You can't." I think Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize. So that proves that I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. He literally sat there looking like Dr. Evil. Okay.
I didn't watch it. I didn't see that. I just listened to a few minutes and I was
talk about a guy that comes from money. Okay. That had more silver spoons in his mouth than almost any American will ever get. And I agree with him on one issue, but man, you know what the problem is, man, that I said this to Golan, and because we go over a little bit, is if he didn't have so much hate in him, his message would be so much stronger.
No, he used to be great. Sam Harris used to be great. And then Trump happened and he lost his mind.
Yeah, broke
He
him.
was saying, I forgot what he said about Hunter Biden. He's like, Hunter Biden could murder children in his basement and it wouldn't be as bad as Trump. Like, how do you get there? How do you get to that point? Because Sam Harris is not stupid. He's extremely bright. And it just shows you that some of these people are just so demented with anti-Trump hate. They can't help it.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And it's heartbreaking. Well, and I got to be honest, it's heartbreaking. I think that's what, when we see, I'm not heartbroken by a Megyn Kelly by any means, and I'm not heartbroken by a Tucker Carlson. What I am heartbroken by is when I see rash people that were somewhat rational just go.
Well, I was Megyn Kelly was that for me because she was.
It wasn't me. I mean, because you weren't here.
No, but that's true. You
you
believed in her, and I can only imagine. Because by the way, you can see the shift that happened within her rhetoric. You can also see that she still doesn't believe what she's saying and is just desperately clawing away for clicks and views and likes and trying to be relevant and all of that. And hey, it's working. I looked at the podcast rankings yesterday. She was #1. So that's the sad part, is that the people, the Candaces and her and the Tuckers, they're all at the top of the charts. And the more crazy stuff you say, well, of course, crazy sells. It's the same reason why young guys like to date crazy women, because it's like, I mean, it's terrible, but it's real fun. And that's essentially what we've got going on with most of the
I could tell people,
out there.
I could be the cautionary tale, people. It is not fun. Okay. Don't date crazy. It lands you single at 49. That is my PSA for the week. The more you know. I want to give a major award, though, to Mark Levin. Mark Levin is like a one-man machine going up against everybody. The dude just doesn't give a crap. And if people want to make fun of him for his looks or whatever it is, make fun of him all you want, man. The guys, I just am fascinated by Levin's turn into what he's become. And, you look at Honor, here's a guy defending his stepson. Right? Here's a guy that's defending his stepson who got railroaded twice now, right? And now he's getting railroaded with the Huckabee thing. And he came out defending his stepson. J.D. Vance didn't come out defending his wife, really.
Yeah.
Did he? And so Mark Levin, props for doing that, and props for everything he's done. And, for everybody that wants to knock on Levin, remember when you used to love him on Limbaugh? Remember that Limbaugh loved him? Remember that Hannity loved him? Remember when all those people? So, on that note, anything else, guys? Or are we good?
No, we're good.
Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure this week, fellows. Everybody, Monday afternoon, 1:30 p.m., Rumble Live. And we're going to need some help. So Dave is going to be monitoring the Rumble channel, because Groypers can get into your Rumble channel. I'm not kidding either.
Man, I hate it when Groypers get into my Rumble channel.
Yeah,
Is
I
this
didn't
the
know what it
sequel to
was.
Gremlins?
Yeah, they did it when I was doing the World According to Ben Stein one night. All of a sudden, I looked in the chat, and there was like 100 of the most anti-Semitic, gnarly messages you could ever see. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? And you could only delete and mute so quickly. And I was like, what the, And so there you are. Okay, you guys are both rock stars. I, again, compliment you on your parenting and all of that stuff, and the way you live your lives. You walk the walk and talk the talk. And it's extremely commendable, and it's an honor doing this with you fellas. I want to wish everybody a great and safe and healthy weekend. Get out of your house. Do not doom scroll. I always say that to people, but I think it's extremely important. Yeah, I'll be posting for the show and stuff and commenting with people, but I'm not going to doom scroll. There's just no point. I'm not going to get into arguments with people. People want to say something, you're blocked. So on that note, I want to wish everybody a good weekend. I want to remind everybody you can find us everywhere at thedailycheatsheet.com. That's thedailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.